My motto is I want to make a full-time income on a part-time job, part-time hours, full-time income on a part-time hour. And all those vacations, I rarely work. I do respond to the occasional, urgent text message, urgent email, or whatever it is, but rarely do you see me these days on my laptop when we're on vacation. And we have the ability to do many of those. So what I'm going to show you in these next slides is the strategy that allowed me to do that allowed me to build that type of lifestyle. Would that be interesting to you guys? You guys want to know that? Okay. Let's get right into it. The strategy is 3 steps. Number 1 is we're going to focus on revenue generation. This is going to allow us to work smarter, not harder. Number 2 is we're going to work on the business, not in the business. This is going to allow us to create systems in our business. And number 3, we're going to replace ourselves. Replace yourself. You're going to leverage people and systems to do that. Focusing on revenue generation. As a real estate broker, I work with a lot of real estate agents. And it's a very well-known fact that multiple studies come out every single year. And they look at when somebody gets their real estate license, and then they look at 5 years later, do they still have the real estate license? And many of them don't. To the tune of 90%. 90% of real estate agents in the real estate industry fail. They're no longer in business. They get their license, 5 years later, 10% of them are left. How can that be? How can there be so much failure there? And my team, we work with investors. We've worked with hundreds and hundreds of investors, selling them investment property. And although the studies don't back this up because there is no license that you get for becoming a real estate investor, I can tell you that a lot of investors fail as well. A lot of investors fail. And I would argue that it's very similar to why real estate agents fail. And I would argue that it's probably close to 90% of investors fail too. So how could there be such a high failure rate among real estate professionals? How is that even possible? Well, I'll tell you why. All of us start this business as solopreneurs. We're running our own businesses. We are the people that have to set up the websites, order the business cards. We file the LLC paperwork, open the bank accounts, talk to the contractors, work with the tenants, fill our properties, hire anybody that we need to hire, right? We're doing all of these tasks in our business, and what happens is we gravitate to the low-hanging fruit, the easy tasks, the tasks we like to do. Maybe we like going to events, so we go to a lot of events. Maybe we like reading books about it, so we read a lot of books. But we don't do the only 5 activities that will generate revenue for our business. So in real estate, there's only 5 things we can do. There's only 5 tasks total out of the hundreds of activities that you could be doing in your business that will generate revenue for you right here and now. Those are this. Number 1, generating leads. We have to generate leads. Number 2 is following up with leads. Number 3 is setting appointments. Number 4 is negotiating contracts. And number 5 is role play and scripting. Now, some of you are going to argue with me on number 5, not being revenue generating. I would say it has to be in there because it's going to multiply your production in 1 through 4. So these are the 5 revenue generating tasks that any new investor, any new agent, when I'm coaching them, I say you have to spend a majority of your time in these lanes or you will not make it. If you don't bring top line revenue into your business, in 5 years, you're going to end up like the 90% of other real estate investors and real estate agents that have failed. This is absolutely critical. We have to focus all of our efforts here. So focusing on the revenue generation. Only when we've done this, only when we've created revenue in our business, do we move on and tiptoe over to step 2. And you're not going to drop this. You're not going to stop doing this and do 2. You're going to slowly transition over to doing some of step 2 with the time that you have on your hands. So step 2 is this. You're going to work on your business. So once you've successfully generated revenue, it's time to document the process that you used to do that. Open up a Google Doc, open up a Word doc, create a checklist that says, what are the steps I use to generate the lead? What are the steps I use to follow up with the lead? What are the steps I'm using to set the appointment? What are the steps I do when I'm on the appointment? What does the presentation look like to the home seller or the wholesaler, whoever it is, that's going to get your offer accepted? What are the steps to negotiating a contract? How do I make my offers? And then what are the scripts that I use? What is it if I'm cold calling with my lead generation? How do I get somebody else to come in and follow the directions and do the same thing that I was doing? What does the script look like? So that's number 2, working on your business. We're creating the systems in our business so that in step 3, we can bring in a person and they can get the same result that we did in step 1. So step 3 is replace yourself. So only when you've had revenue coming in step 1, and you've documented some process in your business that you're now ready to outsource, do you move on to step 3 and look for somebody to come in and help you. So in this scenario, you want to start with the low-hanging fruit first. You don't want to go out and hire a $100,000 a year employee to be your first hire, right? You want to start with the low-hanging fruit. In real estate, what's awesome is we have virtual assistants that are readily available for all of you. And you can afford to pay them $5 to $10 an hour, depending on who you get. And there's tons of tasks that once you have a checklist, once you have the steps to executing on generating leads or following up with leads or setting appointments, people like that can come in and pick it up right away and follow the directions. So I'm looking to outsource the low dollar per hour activities first. Mid-dollar per activities, I would say, are something like $15 to $25 an hour. That's what you'd have to pay somebody locally to be your assistant or help you out. Those people you could use for some of the stuff too, especially if you want to start sending somebody out to go on the appointments. You could start them at that level of pay and incentivize them with some bonuses for getting deals done, stuff like that. And then the expensive stuff, like the $50 or more an hour people, those are your accountants, your CPAs, your legal advice, all that stuff that you may decide to outsource out further down the line, right? But you want to start with the low dollar per activities first.